Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today it's that time of the month like we have every month, the monthly wrap up for June. And I know I'm doing this a bit early. Today's the 28th. So I still have technically like 2 more days of the month. But if I want to get this out tomorrow, I got to film it now. And I figured waiting till next week, we'd be like a week into the next month. So it just felt better to do it now. So there might be some things that I'm probably going to be finishing today or tomorrow. I'll add that in as well, and I'll probably just give you my full thoughts on it. I don't know, in the next book. They might be in video, but you'll get my full thoughts on them if I don't talk about them today. So let's start off with our stats. I read 13 books this month for around 4,162 pages, and the moods pretty split across the board, it seems. We have lighthearted, funny, emotional, dark, adventurous, tense, mysterious, hopeful. I feel like those are pretty consistent moods that I get every month. The pace, pretty close split between medium pace and fast pace. That seems pretty on brand. Our page numbers, 54% below 300, good third, almost 40% between 300 and 500, and then 8%, so like one book that's over 500 pages. And for my genres, top genre of the month was fantasy, not surprising. I think, read much more fantasy this month than I have in previous months. And then LGBTQIA and romance, rounding out our top 3, which tracks. Format, this month it was very much digital because I did read a lot of ARCs this month, so it was either on my Kindle or audio, so the audio was the next biggest chunk, and then print, which, yeah, one print book technically. And my average rating for them was a 4.23, which is pretty good. Now, 3 books I did not rate, and we'll talk about those in a minute because they were like me rereading like my childhood favorites. So I didn't bother rating them, but across the 10 that I did rate, 4.23 is pretty good. The lowest rating I had was 3 stars, so a decent month. Okay, now getting into the books. The first book that I read for the month was The Bone Raiders by Jackson Ford. This is an ARC that I got on NetGalley. It's published by Orbit. I read this, I think I finished this right at the beginning of the month, and I have a full TikTok too as well, giving my thoughts on this, but I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. It is the first in a new fantasy series. We follow a group called the Rakata, who are the Bone Raiders, who in this land, there used to be more like raider bands until there's a new high chieftain and he's pretty much trying to like crack down on them. So the other ones have kind of been wiped out and there's only like a few stragglers left. And the Bone Raiders have an idea that instead of continuing to run, how about we fight back? And in fighting back, they see if they can try and tame giant elephant-sized fire-breathing lizards. And that's really what the book kicks off. Well, not kicks off because the book does kick off pretty good with the first chapter. But most of this book is spent kind of trying to tame these lizards and like interact with them and see how they react to things and if they can possibly be used to fight back against the High Chieftain. And I really enjoyed it. I am very much looking forward to the second book because of the way things left off with one certain character. I really want to know how that pans out. And then I do want to see more of the lizards in action because I don't feel like we got as much of it in this book, because this book definitely does feel like the first book, like we're just starting out the story. So I am excited to see where we go in the rest of the series. Oh, and the book is also sapphic. So, that's a check off in its favor. And this did take off one of my boxes for the r/fantasy bingo, which I think I talked about in my last video for, I think it's LGBTQIA. So if you are doing fantasy bingo, this might be a good option for you. Next book is Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and I'm going to talk about the first 3 books in the series because I read all 3 this month, so I'll just talk about them together. I didn't rate any of these because these are the ones that like I was rereading because I read them as a kid, and I wanted to, reread it again. And I did really enjoy rereading these and getting back into this world, but I'm thinking I may need to stop rereading because certain things that didn't stick out to me as a kid are like kind of taking me out of the story as an adult. Like, for example, in the second book, it's brought up that his older brother doesn't know how to type, like doesn't know how to use a keyboard or anything. And I was like, and we just kind of moved past that and went on because like he was trying to swindle his dad into like doing his report for him. And I was like, are we not gonna be concerned about that? He's in high school. He should know how to type. And granted, the second book came out, I don't know, maybe in like 2010. But like even then, what high schooler doesn't know how to type? Bare minimum. Like I get maybe I'm like, he knows how to type. You're telling me he wasn't on Facebook or some shit, whatever, talking with his friends? This man doesn't know how to type. He doesn't know how to type so badly, he can't even write his own report. I was like, that's concerning. And there was a lot of things like that, where things would come up and the parents would just be like, oh, whatever. And I'm like, that's concerning. We should look into that. We should put more of our effort into talking about this because we're moving past it and I don't think we should. So I don't know. I do have the fourth one out, and I'll mention that in the TBR part of this video. So I might read that one and see how I feel, if I'm still feeling like, I don't know. But I am doing this. Like, I don't regret rereading them. I still, have love for them, but certain things are concerning me with this book. Our next book, and I think the only book that I own physically, is The Sword of Kaigen. Now, this is not the edition I read. I read the paperback edition, the indie paperback edition. I have no idea where that is right now. We're going to use this version. This was probably my favorite book of the month. I gave this 5 stars. I did talk about this in one of my most recent vlogs. So if you want like my full kind of thoughts on how I felt about it, feel free to go check that out. But I will just say I gave this 5 stars. I loved it so much. And the way it was structured was so different to, I feel like, a lot of fantasies are, because a lot of the big action in the book takes place kind of at the midpoint, and then you spend the latter half of the book just kind of being with the characters and dealing with the fallout of everything. And I loved that. And the fact that this book is a standalone is criminal, because things get introduced in the like final chapter that I need more of. I need a whole book dedicated to this. And the fact that it's not going to happen, like, I don't think Emma Long has any plans to make a sequel or make another standalone, but continue on with the story that was mentioned at the end of this, is heartbreaking. Like, I want it so badly. It sounds so interesting. I think it would be amazing. Ugh, I really wish you'd do it. And I know I mentioned there is another series called the Theanite series, or like, yeah, the Theanite series, that does take place like after the events of this. It was written first, but it takes place after this, and it does somewhat have to do with what was introduced in that last chapter. But that series was never complete, and from what I've heard, Emma Long has no plans to complete that series. So even if I were to read it, I still wouldn't be getting the full story. Devastating, heartbreaking, but 5 stars. The hype, it was worth it. The hype, it lived up to the hype, in my opinion. I thought it was great. I thought it was 5 stars. Ugh, amazing. I definitely recommend. And the next book I read was Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. This is the first book in the Wayward Children series, and another one that I gave 5 stars. This was actually a reread for me. I originally read it, I don't know, maybe back in like 2020, 2022, something like that. And I listened to an audio and I gave it 3 stars the first time. I felt very so about it. But reading it again this time, I don't know, it was just so much fun. It was so interesting. It was actually a lot darker and a bit more gruesome than I was expecting. I know, I mean, obviously I'd read it before, so I knew it was coming. But even when I first read it, I was not expecting it to go kind of that dark. And I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. And the ending, I had such a good time with it. I still have not. I know I said in my vlog that I was going to continue on with Down Among the Sticks and Bones. However, I just have a lot of other readings that I have to do, and I'm still not even going to get to it anytime soon, because there's a lot of things on the TBR for July that I actually need to make priority and get to. But I did really love this first book, so I am hoping to continue on with the second book sometime soon, and hopefully maybe catch up before, I think, the 11th book comes out in January. And I did put in a request on NetGalley for the 11th book, because I'm hoping between now and January, if I get approved, I could read 10 more books. Well, 9, and then that would be the 10th to catch up. I could do it, and they're novellas. They're like 100 and some change pages. I think I could do it just fine. I just need to make time for it. And right now, I'm busy trying to get through some other books. Next, I listened to the audiobook for The Enchanted Greenhouse. This was another arc I got through Macmillan Audio, and this comes out, I don't know when this comes out, I'll put it on the screen. But this is by the author who also wrote The Spell Shop, and I never read that, so I can't tell you which one's better, but I thought this one was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I had a good time with it. Personally, I don't think I am a cozy person. I think I will always prefer a darker fantasy. Like, my favorite genre is grimdark, so the darker the better, in my opinion. So I don't know if I'll ever be able or ever really give a cozy fantasy 5 stars, but for what it was, I thought it was really good. We follow Terlu, who is this librarian, and then she gets sentenced to be turned into a statue because she makes a plant sentient, which is against the laws in this world. But then she's sent to this island with all these greenhouses, and there's a grumpy gardener there, and they're trying to save the greenhouses because now they're failing and a lot of the plants are dying. So they're trying to work together to figure out how to save it. I did really enjoy this. I thought personally for me it was too long, because this book is 400 pages, I think over almost 400 pages. I don't know. But it's decently long for me personally. So I thought if it was just a bit shorter, it could have been a really solid read. So it would have been 5 stars. But I still thought I had a good time. There was a sentient, I think, Rose. She was really funny. And there's a bit of a romance too. So if it sounds interesting, I can give it a shot. Next up, I've got I think there are two webtoons that are now being published in like their physical form. And there were both arcs. One was Daybreak by Moosop. And I gave this one 5 stars because this one was just so cute. I think if you're a fan of, what's the Alice Oseman one? Heartstoppers. If you're a fan of Heartstoppers, you'll be a fan of this because it gave me that same sort of like cozy, adorable, these two boys just like kind of being into each other and trying to get closer to each other. And it was so sweet, so wholesome. I loved it. And honestly, I didn't go in, like, I really didn't think I would give it 5 stars. I didn't think I would be like that into it. Not that I thought it'd be bad, but I don't know, I just didn't feel like it would hit that as hard as it did. And I love this. It was so sweet. And it's two black boys. So like one has like dreads and the other one compliments him on his dreads and he like blushes and it was so cute. I thought it was so sweet. I do think one of them, I can't remember their names, but one of them, I believe he goes by he and they pronouns, and that's never really explained in the book. I think I started picking up on it, but I don't think it was ever stated. So I could be wrong. I could just be interpreting that maybe that's just how it was written. But I believe that he does go by he and they pronouns. And then the other, I think it was a webtoon. I don't know, but it's called Chasing Red by Isabella Ronan. I gave this one 3 stars. I just wasn't as into it as much. The whole premise behind this is that they meet, like, not even brief. They don't really meet, but like he's at some event and she's like a waitress there or like the help, and he like knocks her over on accident and then just like runs off and she thinks he's a jerk. And then she gets like evicted from her house because she's broke. So she decides, I'm gonna go out partying because I've got literally nothing else to do. She puts on this red dress. We'll get into that in a minute. And he sees her at a club and he, I guess, wants to like talk to her. And then hold on. There was something specifically in that scene that I think I want to quote. Let me pull it up first. Okay, here it is. I quoted it in my review because she's at the club dancing just by herself, like in her own world. And then out loud, she says to herself that she wants to get a drink. She's like, she needs something to make her forget. And then he swoops up behind her and whispers in her ear, or someone else. Ew. Ew. There's no way someone thought, oh yeah, that's gonna hit. Because firstly, for me as a woman, if I'm out enjoying my time dancing, and some random man comes up and whispers in my ear, back the fuck up, please. Ugh. And I think everything just kind of went downhill from there. And nothing bad really happened in the rest of the book. It was just like, he then asks her to move in with him because like she gets drunk that night. They go back to his place. She sleeps there. He's like, hey, move in and be like my maid and like cook for me. And the reason why I was like, why? You don't know this girl. She barely knows you. The reasoning behind them having to move together was, I didn't buy it. And then back to the red dress. People kept saying, like, he calls her Red now. Like, that's his nickname for her. Red, red, red. And this red dress is what pulled him in. And it was the red dress. Now, if you're talking about a red dress, you're thinking like a fire engine red dress, like a red dress. When you say the red dress, the red dress. When you say like the red shoes, red, red, red. We all know what red we're talking about. This shit was burgundy. It was pissing me off. I was like, I get it. Burgundy is with the red family. But let's be real. It was leaning more like a purple red than anything else. It was more purple than red. I was like, this is not red. It's burgundy. And that shit was irritating the hell out of me. And this is such a stupid thing to harp on. But if you're gonna tell me she was wearing the red dress and he calls her red and red, 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 make it a red dress, not burgundy. Anyways, we're moving on. I'm just realizing I read hella arcs this month. So the next book is also an arc. And so are literally the next two after it. I read Thirsty by Lucy Lahane. This is a paranormal MM romance, and in this world, humans like know about paranormal species. They like came out of hiding a few years ago, and one of our heroes is a like advice columnist, and his like manager or whatever is trying to push him into writing for like more of the paranormal questions he's get brought in, but he isn't part of that community, so he doesn't know anything about paranormal beings. And he runs into the ex-boyfriend of his college roommate, who he figures out is a vampire and asks him to like help him out. And now the vampire doesn't like him because he believes that he told his girlfriend, the roommate, to break up with him, and now he's like hated him for the past like 5 years. So he's like, you know what, sure, I'll help you. And him helping, he's like, he's gonna get his revenge. He doesn't understand what revenge is because he wasn't good at getting it. Nothing about him getting revenge really, that doesn't really pan out. But this book, I give it 3 stars. this is a debut, so I am keeping that in mind. So it does read somewhat as a debut. I feel like there are some things that could have been better executed, specifically like with their relationship, because it started off, this guy like kind of hated him because of the involvement he thinks he had in breaking up his relationship, and then it kind of like switches and they're like in love. And speaking of this relationship, this in the synopsis it says that the roommate was like the love of his life. Nowhere in the book does this man ever act like this woman was the love of his life. Never mentions it. And if anything, he's more upset at the fact that our other hero broke them up or was somewhat involved in breaking them up than he was with actually losing this woman. He seemed like it was like a fling. Like they were together for like a couple months when she was in college. Also, he's like a 200-year-old vampire. How are you still harping over a relationship that ended 5 months ago with some college co-ed? And the MMC, who's the advice columnist, he doesn't tell the vampire one that he's using him for his vampire knowledge. He just makes it seem like he's like writing a thesis, and that's why. And he's kept that secret pretty much throughout the entirety of the book, so it's very obvious that that's going to be like in the third act conflict. So it wasn't a bad book. I could see the potential, so I am willing and interested in reading, this author's further works. So I don't know, I'll keep my eyes open, but this one struggled a bit for me. Our next book, which was actually a hit, was The Library at Hellbore. This was probably the most surprising hit of the month for me, because I have read from Cassandra Khaw before, who's the author of this book. I gave this 5 stars. I read, I can't remember what it's called. Oh God, I'll put the cover up here, but I read that book and did not like it at all. I gave it 2 stars because Cassandra Khaw has a writing style where she uses any obscure word that she can. She puts it through like a thesaurus generator, and then is like, if this word is like vague as hell and like never ever been used before within the English language, let's put it in the book. And it makes it so hard to read the book. It doesn't add anything. It just makes it tedious to read. And that's how I felt reading The Salt Grows Heavy. That's what it was. That's how I felt reading that book. And it's less than 200 pages, I'm pretty sure. Like, it's also a novella. Or that one's a novella. The Library at Hellbore isn't. It was a novella, and it felt tedious to read. It felt like it took me so long to get through it. It literally felt like I was reading a 400-page book. But I listen to Library at Hellbore on audio, so that could be what helps, is that I don't have to like physically read the words and see it, and I'm just listening to it, and I got through it quicker. This was great. Cassandra Khaw is a horror writer, so this, and I think most of her books are like horror with fantasy elements, and this is definitely horror in a fantasy world, which I loved, because like I said, I love a dark fantasy, and a horror fantasy gives me that darkness, because this world, like the gore, it's gonna get described to you. It is gross at some points, but like I still had such a good time with it. And I don't think I explained what this book was about. We follow our main character, who is basically kind of kidnapped and brought to Hellbore, which is this college for people with like powers. What powers? I don't know where they come from. I don't know. But given this is a horror, you're not going to get as much like explanation as you probably would in a fantasy to like explain like a magic system or like the world or whatever, because it's horror. Things are still kind of like vague, but I didn't mind that. And all of these people are locked into this library, and they're told only one of you is going to basically be alive when you leave it. And how that happens, we shall see. But I don't know, it was a good book. I had such a good time. I thought it was great. Like I said, it's definitely horror, so if you can't handle some gore and some violence, maybe this one's for you. But I had a good time with it. Next book was Once Upon a Time in Dollywood. This is a romance by Berkeley, and it is a debut from Ashley Jordan. I gave this one, I think, a 4.25 stars or 4.5, I can't remember. But this one I did really enjoy. This is going to be in a vlog along with The Library at Hellbore, so you'll kind of get more of my thoughts in that. But I did really enjoy this one. It is definitely a very emotional romance. We follow our FMC, who at the beginning of this is going through infertility. She's just had her 3rd miscarriage, so she basically like abandons everything in her life. She dips on her parents, she dumps her fiance, and just runs. And she goes to Tennessee to stay at her grandma's cabin because her grandma's passed, so it's been just kind of sitting empty. And that's where she meets Jamie, our MMC, who's staying there for a bit while his son is with his mom, because they've just been through like a whole custody battle, and he got, I think, primary custody. And the ex-girlfriend is very much, she's not bad, but like she definitely takes advantage. But I thought this book was very well done. Our main character, Eve, she is this type of person where like I feel like normally what her actions and what she does would piss me off in books, but like I kind of get it. Like you can tell that she is very depressed throughout like especially the beginning of this book and like what she's going through, and like she doesn't open up to people and with things that have happened in her past, and she has, issues with her parents. And I don't know, I just like I felt for her, even though there were certain times where like she was in the wrong, like especially with how things she handled things with her fiance. She was in the wrong in his story. She is the villain, but I was still rooting for her. Like I still loved her. I was like, you know what, she fucked up, but I'm still there for her. I still want her to thrive, and I don't know, I still really loved the book, and I feel like this was one of those romances where it felt very realistic at times, because I feel like romance in as a genre sometimes tends to feel unrealistic with the how a romance is portrayed. This one felt very realistic to me, and I loved both characters, and I loved their dynamic together, and I don't know, I just had a good time. This one comes out August 12th or August 15th. I don't know. It comes out in August. No, it comes out August 5th. I don't know. It comes out in August. Does it? I don't remember. This either comes out in August or July. The date will be on the screen. But this one was a good one. I definitely enjoyed this one. If you love a like emotional, a little bit more kind of serious romance, I feel like this one will hit for you. I have not read Kennedy Ryan, but I feel like with the way people talk about her, this would be good for people who also like Kennedy Ryan. I feel like this book kind of fits that vibe. All right, last book of the wrap up, we have Volatile Memory, another arc and another audiobook. This is by Seth Haddon. I just finished this last night. This was very good as well. I gave this 4 stars. This follows a like scavenger who's a transgender woman, and she like responds to this like beacon that's sent out in space, and she somehow ends up in possession of this hawk mask. And little does she know, this hawk mask has basically a sentient being inside, and she's trying to figure out, I guess, who or what this sentient being is, and they travel across space together, and she is kind of on the run as well, so they're trying to outrun people, and you're just figuring stuff out about both of them. And I'm trying to keep it vague because this is a novella, so it's pretty short. But I thought it was very good. I know people compare this to Gideon the Ninth. I definitely see the connection. I definitely see like kind of the same vibes there. And this is the first book in a duology, so it does end on a bit of a cliffhanger. I still had a good time with this. And Hawk, who's the like sentient, and it's called Hawk because it's a hawk mask, but that's what we're calling the sentient being, is Hawk. The way they are low-key very bloodthirsty, loved that. So it was kind of the opposite of our other main character, Willa, because Willa very much was like, she didn't want to hurt people. She very much was against killing, even though people in this world, like, they're willing to kill, they're willing to hurt to like get by, and she didn't want to do any of that. And Hawk was like, I'll do it. So I loved that. But yeah, finished that last night. Thought it was very good. Definitely excited for the next book, which isn't going to be out for a bit. So I've got some time to wait on that one. But those are all the books for our wrap up portion of today's video. So now we can get into the TBR. Okay, now the TBR is a bit ambitious, but there are certain ones, like I mentioned, that like I have to kind of get to within July, specifically some arcs and specifically some books that I have out for my library that obviously my loans are going to come up. So we'll start with the arcs. The first one that I need to read because this comes out July 15th is Killer on the Road and the Babysitter Lives by Stephen Graham Jones. These are 2 novellas that are being like bound up together, and I think the way it works is like one's on one side and then you can flip the book and the other book will be on the other side. I have started this. I started the first one, Killer on the Road. I'm like, I don't know, maybe 30% of the way into it. I am really enjoying it so far. Stephen Graham Jones is a favorite author. I read My Heart is a Chainsaw as well as The Night of the Mannequins, like not last year, but I think the year before. Loved both, especially My Heart is a Chainsaw. Love it so much. Like, that's one of those books where you gotta like love the main character to love the book, Loki. But I love the way he writes, and I am definitely excited to finish this one up. I've already pre-ordered my physical copy. Before I even requested the arc, like I knew I was going to buy it either way. But that's the first one. The next is The Sun and the Moon. I know nothing about this book. I sent in a request through Berkeley. They have a forum for like underrepresented voices. And this one is about 2 bisexual women, or 1 bisexual woman and a lesbian. I don't exactly know. But I sent it in because I was like, I really want a nice romance, fun, easy one for the summer. So I sent this one in. I have absolutely no idea what this book's about, but I did get the arc approved. So I'll be reading this. I think this one comes out end of July, so obviously I'll be getting to it soon. Next is Forget Me Not by, I believe it's Stacey Willingham, who's the author of A Flicker in the Dark, which I never read because the reviews I was seeing for it was just saying that it was like really predictable, so I didn't bother trying to read it. But this one is a like missing persons mystery. The main character, her sister, went missing like years ago. Now she's back in her hometown. I guess she finds this journal that potentially has something to do with her sister, and I guess maybe she's trying to see if she's still alive to find her, whatever. I don't know. But like missing person is one of my favorite thriller tropes, so I put a request for that. So I'm excited to get to this one. Hopefully I like it, because I very rarely like thrillers. Unfortunately, like I feel like it's either hit or it's a miss. There's rarely ever like an in between. But I'm hoping I like this one because, like I said, I love a missing person thriller. So the odds of me liking it are higher than not. And now the last arc I need to read is The Hounding. This has been described as The Crucible meets The Virgin Suicides, and I read The Crucible earlier this year and I loved it. So as soon as I saw that as a comp title on it, I was like, oh, I have to read it. This comes out in August, I think beginning of August. So I will be getting to that soon. But first, speaking of, I have started reading The Virgin Suicides because I want to obviously read this before going to that, so I've read both comp titles so I know what I'm expecting going into it. And I'm already seeing parallels between The Crucible and The Virgin Suicides. I'm only 44 pages in, but I'm definitely seeing parallels of like certain vibes and like the way communities are reacting to certain people. So I am really enjoying this, loving it. The way the people in this town are pissing me off so badly, but I'm enjoying it. So I'm hoping not hoping, I will be getting to The Hounding within July for sure. Next up, we have some books that I do have out on Libby. I still have the audiobook for Starling House. I know I mentioned starting that a couple weeks ago. I was like in the end of one of my blogs, I mentioned that I started it. Have not continued on since then, but I will be finishing it within July because I was able to renew my loan. So I'm gonna keep that. That's by Alex Harrow. I don't know if it's a haunted house. I don't know. Something's going on with this house. It wants this girl, something around that. I went into this pretty much completely blind. I've read Alex Harrow's 2 short stories, so I already loved those, so I figured I would just try these. Speaking of Alex Harrow, though, slight intermission, I got the art for The Everlasting, which is the expanded version for The Sixth Deaths of the Saint, which is actually my favorite Alex Harrow, but one of my favorite books of last year. So I will be getting to that, probably not in July, because that doesn't come out till, I think, October, so I've got a little bit of time for it, but I'm so excited for it. I am obsessed with Sixth Deaths of the Saint, so The Everlasting will be read sometime soon. Next, like I mentioned, I have the 4th book in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. This is probably going to be, like I mentioned, like my last ditch effort with this series, because if I'm still feeling like old man yelling at these damn kids while reading this book, I think I'm just going to stop reading the series. Next is The Jasad Heir. I got the audiobook for this. I was reading it physically, and I'm almost 300 pages in, so I'm past the 50% mark. I was enjoying this. It has slowed down a bit in the midpoint here, and now that we're getting into some of the romantic aspects of it, I don't know if I'm enjoying it as much, because I honestly just don't think these two should be romantically involved as of this point. I'm not buying it, but I am excited to see where it goes. And the second book for this does come out July 15th as well. I've already pre-ordered that, so I'll probably try and finish this up before that gets released, and then I might maybe read The Jasad Crown in the latter half of July, or probably in August, just that way, because like this is a duology, so I can just kind of wrap it up real quick. And then last up for my Libby books, I have the audiobook for Buffalo Hunter Hunter, and this also ties me into my next category, which are my r/fantasy reads. This is for author of color, so I have the audiobook for this, and I really want to tandem read this one, because I saw someone else review it saying that like the audiobook narration was very good for this, so I wanted to listen to both. So I'm excited for this. Another Stephen Graham Jones. We're doing 2 Stephen Graham Jones this month. Good for me. I am expecting this to be a 5-star. I really am. It is a vampire revenge story, and I love that. Those are 2 things that I'm obsessed with, so I'm expecting to be as obsessed with this. The next 2 books are also on my r/fantasy list, and that is Babel and This Is How You Lose the Time War. Babel specifically because I did put in a request for the audiobook for Catabasis, so fingers crossed, hopefully I get it, we'll see. But I did obviously want to finish this before reading Catabasis, and I said I was going to read in June, and then I didn't, so this will be read before I read Catabasis. So it has to be read in July either way, because Catabasis comes out end of August. So either way, I will be reading this before that. Whether or not I get to it in July or I squeeze it in August, we'll see. And then this is the time where the book Volatile Memory that I talked about in my wrap-up portion, this was one of the comp titles for it, so it made me want to read it even more. And then also trying to get through the R/Fantasy. This is one of the shorter ones, so this might be a good one. And it's epistolary, so it's told all through letters. So I figured this would be a really quick read. The last book that I'm going to be reading, but I don't know if I'm going to read fully, is SPQR. I started this month. This is a nonfiction on a history of ancient Rome. I've always been really into like Greek history and like Roman history. For those of you that don't know, my tattoo sleeve is actually Greek mythology themed. There's Hades, Medusa, and then Hecate on my upper arm. So I've always been kind of interested in it, and like obviously what started my interest in that was Percy Jackson. And I feel like everything I've learned has kind of just been like passively, just like if I happen to read a book that was about it, or if I happen to, see like a YouTube video or something. But I kind of wanted to get more into it and like really start watching stuff, really start like learning. So I picked this up, and I know this is like one of the most highly requested books on ancient Rome if you're going to read it, because it gives you kind of an overview, and I have been really enjoying it so far. Am I going to finish it this month? Probably not. It's like 500 pages. Yeah, it's over 500 pages, and it's a nonfiction, so it's probably take me some time to get through, and I'm not trying to rush through it. And then last few just like honorable mentions. Blood Over Brighthaven. I read Sword of Kaigan. I loved it. I was obsessed. So I do want to get to her other standalone book. And I believe these are the only two books that are like readily available. I don't know if that Theonite series you can get easily, but I know at least Sword of Kaigan and Blood Over Brighthaven are the ones that are like out and everyone get it. And this one is traditionally published. I went out of my way to find this indie published version. I bought it on Pango Books. I definitely paid more than retail. Not super too much, but I wanted it. Sue me. And now one that was on my June TBR that I didn't get to, The Nightingale. I will try to get to this one within this month. We'll see. I'm 30-ish% of the way in, so hopefully I'll get through this. I know so many people keep yelling at me to finish this, and I don't know, I have been in the mood for like a really sad book, but for some reason I got halfway through, not half, I got a third through this, but I keep looking at my other Kristen Hanna books, and I gotta read those, but I'm like, but I need to finish this. Before I can pick up a different one, I need to finish the one that I'm in the middle of. So hopefully I'll get to this one this month. And then Prior the Orange Tree was another book that was on my like pile of shame of books I started but never finished. I got 200 pages into this. I'll definitely be starting over because like I don't even remember what happened in those first 200. And like she's a brick, but like the writing on this is pretty big, so I feel like I could read through this pretty quickly. And I don't know, like something about this, I love how massive this book is. I love just how floppy and gigantic it is. So hopefully I'll get to this. We'll see. I might get to this. I have been in a really big like fantasy mood, so we'll see. And our last book, a recent release, Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, Sapphic Vampires. What more do you need? Like I said, I love a vampire book. And I did read the first 12 chapters of this as a read now NetGalley arc, so I got 90 pages in that way, and I have it marked off. So let's see how I get to this. I did see one review recently that said that they were bored, so I hope that's not my experience because I really want to love this. I've been hit or miss with Miss B.E. Schwab. I do know there was a certain book where I did feel like she was just writing to write and not writing to move the story forward. So hopefully I love this. It seems like a really great concept, and I'm hoping I give it 5 stars. All right, that was my wrap up for June and my TBR for July. I think that's everything. There's probably some things that I'm missing that I also probably need to get to and make a priority, but that's everything I have gone through. So you know what? Let me know in the comments what you read recently, if you've read anything that I've read, if you agree, if you disagree. I'd like to know, and what you're going to be reading in July. But that is everything for today's video. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!